to the Legal Edge Coaching Podcast. This is your host, Trevor White, with
Shane Smith, your other host.
welcome to today's show. We've got a fiery one for you today because today's conversation is going to be all about when things are not working. When things are not working. See, if you've been following along on our podcast, listen to our shows, we've kind of set up a lot of foundation about what we do at the Legal Edge, and kind of we are more than just one or two dimensions of a human being, right? There's a lot that makes us up. So before we dive in, though, let's just get a little pulse check on the game, man. How are you today, Shane?
Doing well, and it's funny that we were talking about it. We're not one dimensional. And that's exactly it, because stuff goes sideways, right? If you've got wife, you've got kids, heck, if you just date, have family members, I'm sure everybody's got their bag of things that go sideways. And so often, I think, as a business owner, we think, well, I just can ignore it. I can just put my head down and focus on work, and it doesn't affect me. It affects everybody else, but not myself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. Well, and it's realizing you have to do something about it, right? You realize my wife is right now in the midst of, she's 3.5 weeks out from a fitness competition. So she's a competitor. She's trying to go for a pro card this year. And she's a bombshell. I'll just go ahead and say it right there. I married up, which is amazing. I've got a smoking hot wife and I love it, but she is elite. But the reason I bring this up is just this last week, she went batshit crazy.
I was going to say, if she's 3 weeks from a competition, she's probably her hair trigger on emotions, from anger to tears to everything is terrible to all over the place, I guess.
Yeah, it has been over the top. And like my daughter and I we're like walking around realizing mom is a nuclear bomb and we must avoid the bomb's explosions. But it brings up really, and it fits well into today's topic, because when you're at chaos at home, it will absolutely affect the rest of your life. You cannot operate in a silo and pretend that, hey, I've got problems here, but I'm just going to turn those problems off and then put on a different hat and go stand over this direction. Doesn't work. It will never work. That will never be the thing. Even though we think we're so badass that we can pull it off. We think, oh, I can work the system. I'm stronger. I have more willpower. I have more determination. And that's not how it works. And this week has been, well, I guess it'd be last week was a testament of this. And
it's only going to get worse for 3 weeks, right?
I know, right? Because she's in a major carb deficit, and she just went through a zero carb, then to a refeed. And I tell you what, getting into the fitness game, it is so scientific. It's ridiculous to me. Like it is so much more than just what you would think until you get in and you see what they go through to compete at that level. And I'm like, holy crap. Like it's full-time job. But so that has consumed her, which has been interesting, because then I'm sitting here as her husband and I'm like, well, I still got to go provide and do all these things. I still have client calls and I still have business to run and I still have all of the things I need to do as a business owner. But what I've found is anytime my wife and I are not in alignment, I'm flat out shittier.
Oh, definitely.
As a business owner. Yeah. Like, even if I try my hardest, and sometimes I'll put my face on and have a smile and just be like, oh, it's going to be okay, blah, blah. But the reality is, no, what's actually happens is I'm less. And so we'll talk about kind of some strategies and techniques and tactics today on what I've had to do, not just now, but in the past, with my past marriage and how I completely screwed that up, and just a lot of that. But I think the first identifier, man, is just realizing, dude, shit's never always just rainbows and butterflies. It's always going to go sideways. So what then? Right? That's the real question. What do you do then? Do I just dismiss my wife and be like, well, she's literally being frank. She's being a bitch. So I'm not even going to be around her anymore. I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to stay late at the office. I'm going to is that ever going to get me where I actually want to go?
No, but a lot of folks, that's their coping mechanism, right? Home life is out of control. So I'll just stay at the office and keep my head down. And, honestly, we've talked about it. That is actually one of the terrible detrimentals, is long-term, that long-term coping mechanism where you just stay at work leads to affairs, right? It just destroys marriages because you get further and further apart. And then you go home and your spouse gets mad at you for being at work.
Mm-hmm. And the reality is what she needs from you as her husband, as her provider, as the one out doing what she needed from me this last week wasn't for me to disconnect from her. It was actually the opposite, but it required me to be super conscious about it. Right. I couldn't just get pissed off, be a little diaper baby, I like to call it, and just throw a tantrum and just be like, well, you're not been right. Because obviously if she's in that spot and she's dealing with her own emotions, trying to process through this intense thing she's doing, that obviously is leading to lack of sex. Right.
Yeah.
So then I start to get sexually frustrated. And then I'm like, what? And then if I allow that to fester in my head, even you and I jumping on this podcast today, I'm going to be half of who I should be. I'm gonna be bringing all that bullshit with me. Like,
Yeah.
and we know this to be true when we talk about our employees, right? Talk
Right,
about an
but we think it's
employee.
all different for us, and
Yes, right.
and that's what's so crazy about it is I don't know anybody who would argue with me and say an employee going through a divorce or some other major life crisis event is operating at their top game.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to argue that to their boss, and yet we think so often. But I can just bury my head in the sand. I can stay
Mhm.
focused for 8 hours, and it has no impact on me.
Yeah.
And
Somehow I'm a unicorn, right?
right,
That's literally, we think we're just better. We're better than everybody else, which is such an interesting thought.
and I've almost, I mean, assuming it's a short-term issue, right? Assuming it's something fixable, that's gonna, that's not gonna go on for months and months. Sometimes, I mean, one of the things I'll just do is double down on, hey, I got a problem, right? This is gonna be consuming. Let me pull back some on the work stuff,
Mhm.
not do things that have to get done, not ignore it, but know that all the extra stuff as the owner you're doing to grow your business or you're doing to expand or you're doing to make something better, maybe pull a little bit back on that because one, you've got limited capacity, right? There's only
Yeah.
so much you're going to be at, and make sure you do those. And some of the other stuff, be like, if I don't know, if I would take half the day off to go to the doctor, maybe it's okay to take half the day off to deal with whatever your family crisis issue is, right? I mean,
Yeah.
because you're going to
But
have.
wait a second. But wait a second, Shane. You're saying that in order to scale and grow your business, when shit's not right at home, you should work less on the business and more at home.
I am assuming you can
Wait a
take it
second.
short
That
term.
doesn't make sense.
You know, I've found for me to be my best, home life needs to be good, right? My
Yeah.
and and some of that is sometimes you got to go deal with whatever the psycho issue is, right? I mean,
Yep.
and if you have kids, you're going to have some problems. They're going to go from, you know, failing a test in middle school to who know, to all the things kids go through is what I'm going to say. From
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say girls because I have two boys, but to girls, to college, to cars, driving, all the problems are there, and they're all probably going to hit your desk at one of these time periods. And
Yep.
sometimes it's not even dealing with the problem. I remember an issue with one of my sons where my wife sends me a text and says, "Hey, I need you here because you know your son, when he was bad, he was my son. Your
Of
son did
course.
this, right? And I don't even know how to talk to him, but
Right.
I can tell you what I want to do, and I don't think that's going to be helpful for anybody. But so it's like, oh crap, I guess I'll go home at 3 o'clock today, right, to deal with this
Yeah.
issue. Um, as or I remember I had another issue just recently, and I'm like, oh, I've got to get this stuff to my accountant, right? It was like, coming up on that deadline, which once not, it wasn't a deadline I had to do that day, but I had decided that needed to be done today. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so I was like, all right, let me deal with this. Let me then back burner and know I can do this in 30 minutes. And then let me come back to this issue to deal with it. But that, I'm doing the essentials, the things that have to get done
Mm-hmm.
to move forward so other people can do their job, generally is what it is.
Yeah.
And then go back and deal with whatever you can deal with at the home issue.
Yeah. When we have to realize that we aren't compartmentalized. Because if you do that, so in the past, I was compartmentalized and I didn't do exactly what you're talking about. I would just lose myself in the work. I would lose myself in the business. And yes, it kept making money, but my home life was falling apart, completely falling apart. And so you look at tactically what I did over this last week with my wife, going through what she's been going through and feeling what she's been feeling, which is all real valid feelings. Like, I get it. I mean, if I had no carbs, I'd probably be an asshole.
I was gonna
I'm
say, I think
confident.
you ought to go to a Great American Cookie Company, get like 6 cookies, and eat them in front of her, and say, "Honey, these are so great. I
Like,
really
why are
wish you
you
could
why are
have
you
it.
having such a hard time? I'm not,
I
nom,
really wish
nom.
you could have these, but you haven't hit your, you're not lean enough yet, so you just got to keep toughing it out. But
That's
boy,
definitely what I would have done when I was married to my ex-wife. That would have happened. Not because I didn't like her, but I was just that big of a douchebag. I'll be totally honest here, right? But I've learned some things, right? And a lot of what you do at the legal edge is about learning how to manage these. How do you manage all four pillars at the same time? Because you cannot just turn your blinders off to a domain ever. Not one, not body, not being, not balance, not business. All of them have to move forward, but each one at different moments will require your focus. And so I'm sitting here this week and I'm like, okay, do I need, this is like a self-assessment that we do once a week. We get to the end of the week. We're like, okay, where are we at with where I'm trying to go? And what do I want to do? What needs to happen this week to do that? And so last week, when I saw this happening with my wife, it was very clear as I made my plans for the week, I scheduled this in. I literally put it into my calendar, get my wife flowers 3 separate times.
oh yeah,
3 separate times throughout the week. And when I get her flowers, I don't order them from a floral shop. What I like to do, because this is just a little added benefit or added bonus that makes her know I gave a shit and I didn't just spend some money on her, but I'll go and some people talk shit because I get my flowers from the grocery store. Right?
yeah,
There's always this joke at the grocery store flowers, but I don't buy their arrangements. I buy a bunch of random flowers and I put the arrangements together and then they have a symbol to them. They mean something,
yeah.
something about them. So what I did is I got these on my calendar. So it didn't take a lot of time. And I would go to the Safeway, picked up the flowers, put the arrangement together. And one of those arrangements, to give you an example of what I'm talking about, I bought a bunch of purple. I don't even know what they were. Purple flowers. These like I don't know, lilies or something. Just purple flowers, bunch of them. And then I bought one red rose. And I cut the stems on the purple one shorter and I left the red rose a little longer. So it was like sticking out. And then I just took this note and I put this note right beside the flowers. And she was gone doing something, whatever. So I snuck them in the house, put them in the kitchen, put this little note beside it. And the note said something to the effect of, babe, you are one in a million. You stand out and I love you so much. Like you're crushing it. So proud of you. So in essence, that was in essence what it was. But I'm trying, it's a terrible word for that. Because what I was doing, I was ensuring that even though she was dealing with the stress, that I wasn't going to allow that to infect me as a man, and that to do that, she needed my support, even though there's a voice inside of me that didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, dude, she's treating me like shit. She's saying rude things. She's on the angle. I don't even know what to say because if I say something to her, it tends to throw her off or takes the wrong direction. Even if I ask a simple question like, hey, did you get this done today? It turns into this World War III fight. And I'm like, I was just curious if it was done. I didn't mean it had to be done. I was just asked, right? That
Right.
shit's what's going on. It's just normal, petty, stupid fights. But the reality is, I've created such a pattern and a habit because I understand what we're talking about, that if you don't do this, then what happens is you end up where I was at in my first marriage,
Right.
where I've got two middle fingers in the air, not to my ex-wife, but just to marriage in general.
You know,
Right. To where I'd given up on love and hope and all of that. And it's just, and I didn't even care. And I was like, you know what? I can do one thing really well. I can make money. So I'm gonna go do that. And I'm just gonna focus on that. I'm gonna focus on that and I'm gonna focus. And when shit goes wrong, I'm gonna focus even harder and even harder and even harder. And I think it was good in the long run, but at the time it was bad. I had success. I made money. And so my plan, even though it was like the worst plan ever, it worked. Right. It was actually working. It was getting me the result I said I was going after. Only problem was all I was doing was like pretending with this, wall up over here that everything that was going on at home wasn't actually going on. And there was nothing to be afraid of. Right. Or nothing to be worried about until all of a sudden
the
there's
cliff.
divorce papers.
Yeah.
Yeah. The cliff comes up and I'm like, holy shit. And how did we get this far? And then it's gotten so far to where it's like, we have the people that are like, you're in World War III and all these fights, and you can't even imagine a time that you're ever in love with this person, and they've become your mortal enemy. And why? Right? Why did that happen? And I'm like, oh, holy crap! Like, and that was one of the things that did when you and I first met,
Yeah.
and we were both really journeying to try to figure a lot of this stuff out. Was like, how do you build your life up again so that works,
Yeah.
so that you can have a great marriage, but also make the money?
Yeah, because that's one of the things I was going to say is, we look at it and, the consequences of divorce are usually lose half of everything, right?
Yeah.
And that's just the financial consequences. And not to mention child support if you've got it or future
Mm-hmm.
stuff or any of that but let's just talk about the current financial stuff. if you get divorced, you lose half of everything. So, but so few times will people invest in their marriage, financially or
Yeah.
time wise, and yet the consequences are so devastating. I mean, lose half your assets, not to mention, estranged from your kids, or all of that, or getting your kids every other week. And yet, as business owners, how often do we look at it and say, okay, I need to invest in this, and more than just let me run by the jewelry store and buy something. Like you say, with the
Oh yeah.
flowers, right? Your wife likes that you arrange them and do something
Hmm.
different. My wife doesn't like store-bought cards
Yeah.
because she says I can pop into Hallmark, grab a card, sign it, and get out of there quick with no thought whatsoever. Not only that, I could have my admin pick up a card and I could just sign it and give it to her. And she
Well,
goes,
shit,
so,
they make drop shipping cards. Like you can
dude,
order them on the regular that you don't even do anything. It's all automated and it just sends it. You don't even, you're as surprised as your wife would be when they open those cards. You're
I
like,
like that one,
what is
but
it?
my wife would not. I didn't even know about that, Trevor.
Oh
Because
yeah, that's a real thing. A real thing. I used it a long time ago until I realized how ridiculously weak that was for me to do
you
that.
know,
Because
uh,
I know what your wife loves, dude. She
yeah,
loves the handwritten stuff.
she does. I mean, a piece of typing paper folded in half with, she prefers there's colors and all kind of junk on it, but actually she'll take just everything handwritten in pencil than she would a store-bought card.
And you've been doing that. How long have you been doing that? Because you just do a 3x5 card, or what do you do?
Oh, I still do the 3x5 card every day, right? So that's my note to her, right? That's my investment in her every day is a 3x5 card. This is like anniversaries, weddings, birthdays, all that. I've been doing that since, holy cow, since before I worked for somebody else. So it's been over 16, 17 years. And I brought a card home one time and then, I did the store bought. I mean, probably the first 6, 7 years we were together. So I've done the cards for years. Ever since I started this whole, build the life you want kind of deal. And they mentioned it. And I was like, a one-way text to your spouse or your kids every day.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I tried the text messages and it just didn't, it fell pretty flat.
Hmm.
And then, and some people are like, hey, I love, honor, and appreciate this about you, which that works. We do a lot of that, but we also do sometimes just talking about stuff that, it's kind of weird to talk about sometimes. It's not like me and my wife don't talk. We talk about everything,
Yeah.
but sometimes it's easier just to say, hey, that I know you're going through this. It's okay. This is the next stage, right? Because I've been doing it since we had kids at home to kids in college, one kid in college to two
Hmm.
kids in college. So the whole empty nester transition has been parts of it. And heck, sometimes it's just like, hey, I know we're going through this. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're a little irritated with her, or she's a little irritated with you. A little note sometimes makes, it's easier than saying, hey, babe, sorry, I was a jerk, right?
Yeah. Write it down. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Putting it in. And I think the key you're coming like bringing this around, it's not a lot. It
no,
doesn't take that much time. And it's just like anything else, like health. It's easier to do preventative maintenance on your body than it is to be 100 pounds overweight, diabetic, and dying of heart failure. Right. And then trying to fix that. It's way easier if you just for the last 20 years taking care of yourself. And I think this is what we're talking about. It's let's take care of this so that if there are problems, it's not those kind of problems
right.
right inside the home. Because there was a statement I heard, I love it, it's great, and there's no amount of success outside the home that will ever make up for failure in the home. But I
Yeah.
think we get it twisted that we think, well, that means I have to devote my whole heart and soul 24/7 to the home,
Yeah,
to
which
my
is not the
wife, or to
case,
my
right? Because
no, not at all. my
because
wife my wife actually loves quality time, but what I realized is she loves quality time, it's not quantity of time.
yeah,
Right? I don't have to spend, nor would it be helpful or beneficial for either of us to spend every waking moment together. She doesn't want that. What she wants is when I'm done with the office and I come home and I come in the house, she wants me.
yeah,
Like she wants me. And maybe it's not a long time. Like this is why, like, a daily, some kind of deposit to the wife and to the kids, like just some little thing. And for my daughter, it's very simple. She gets home from school. And when she comes in the house, whatever, she's kind of settled in. I go in on no phone, no nothing, and I go right to her, and it is all about her, whatever she wants to talk about for about 5 minutes. That's it. No distractions, nothing. That is the devoted time to my daughter. so that she knows that no matter what, whenever she gets home, no matter what's going on, like I am in it with her. Like there's people want your presence. That's what they want. They don't want presents, even though some people
Right.
love gifts. They actually want your presence. They want you, especially when we're talking about our spouse or anything like that. And so it's imperative that we understand this. Because if we don't, and we don't do that, we'll get distracted. And all of a sudden, a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, a month goes by, a year goes by, 5 years go by. And then you look over at this stranger that lives in your house and you have this distant memory of what life was like. And this is exactly what my first marriage was like.
And I'll say too, along those same lines, so many of us get wrapped up in they want it to be reciprocal or
Yeah.
back and forth, right? They're like, if I leave a note for my wife, she needs to leave a note for me. If I send my kids a
Yeah.
text, they need to send me a text back. And that's the wrong attitude on this thing. I mean, 100%. Because I mean, if I quit sending, if I waited for my kids to send me a text every time, I'd have quit that years ago because they're not going to
100%.
be one for one. It's just not
No.
going to happen. But and I'll tell you this, I send my kids a text usually every single morning and every single night, right? Good night. Sometimes just good night. I love you, bud. Have a good day
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow, right? Nothing overly difficult. Now, obviously, you don't want to do that all in a row. You don't want 57 text messages. Good morning. But my oldest doesn't respond that often. But then I bumped into one of his friends who told me, "Oh, you're the dad who sends his kid a text every day,"
Mm.
which is wild, right? Because
Yeah.
that means he's shown one of his friends these text messages.
Yep.
And if I'd
And they've,
waited for,
yeah, and that they've had a
yeah,
talk about it and a conversation, and they're probably like, wow, oh, my dad doesn't do that.
yeah, if I'd waited for him to reciprocate, though, I would have stopped it
Mm-hmm.
years ago. It wouldn't have happened. But
Yeah.
if you waited for your wife to bring you flowers every 3 times in the week, that probably wouldn't happen either.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
You know,
100%. And so, yeah, it's not, this isn't complicated. Listen, I just want everybody to get this. Now, not as we kind of bring today's conversation to a close in today's show, I want to spin it around back to how do you do that without losing focus on the business, right? If I have to shift my focus, and it's done through one very, very simple way. Like, hope get your pens out, everybody. You better write down this gold nugget I'm about to drop on you, which is very complex and super hard, and you're never gonna guess it. Have a plan.
yep. I was gonna say,
Have a plan. That's it. It's this the way to win in life. This have it all lifestyle to go after the life that you want. It is so obtainable. People screw it up though because they live life on accident. And what we're saying is, hey, live life on purpose. Because I can take the half day off, right, to go deal with the chaos at home, or I can do the thing. I can spend the few minutes to get the wife flowers because I know she's going through a hard time, and then consciously not disconnect from her, even though I'm going to take some arrows. It's okay. She'll get over it. And I'll get over it. I'm fine. I'm strong. Right. But I have a plan, literally a plan. You can look at the maps that we create inside of the Legal Edge every single week. And there's a literal plan, which means as long as I'm executing the plan that I have put out for me, that includes these other domains, that includes that, there's no way to not win because you'll continue to move focus and momentum forward, and you'll never, you're not perfect, so you probably will eventually, but if you follow the plan, it's impossible for you to consciously or subconsciously not do the thing you said you would do.
and
Right.
and yeah, and along those lines, if you like with your kids, if you have contact with them during the good times, then something happens, they're much more receptive to hearing from you too
Mm-hmm.
than if you've never had any contact.
Yep.
It is one of those things, right? Or your spouse the same way, right? I mean, if you never go home and spend quality time with your spouse and she goes through a difficult time, well, then you pop an in is probably not going to work if you're an ass all the time, except
Mm-hmm.
for when you show up with flowers once a week. That's probably not going to work.
Yep. Oh yeah. Well, it's like Valentine's Day. I call that my name for Valentine's Day is douchebag day.
Yeah.
It's the day all the douchebags decide to do something for their wife, and then the other 364 days a year they don't do anything.
I was gonna say we don't actually we haven't went out on Valentine's Day in years,
Yeah, we don't either.
maybe decades.
It's the day that my wife and I refuse to go on a date night. We're like,
Yeah,
no, we'll go every other, but we're on a date night every week, and but it's all off the plan,
yeah,
right? The
it
plan,
is.
the plan, the plan. If you don't, and you can't just create a plan in business and not create a plan in your
Well,
relationships.
no, like my notes I give to my wife in the beginning when it was harder, I
Mm-hmm.
would actually keep a starter list, right? And it was, you know, hey, I noticed, I come in, I noticed she did something around the house. I write that down on a little note. And I might have 5, 6 things on the little note card. That's my starter list for like in the morning. I get up. What am I doing? Oh, I'm talking about this today. Boom.
Yep.
Or I saw she did that. So I even had a plan for that. And a lot of times it was 4 or 5 days in advance. And that worked super well for me because, I do mine in the morning. So if I get up, sometimes your brain's not moving at 100, warp speed.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we were grumbly last night right before bed. So I wake up, I'm not in a particularly loving mood, but I
Right.
still want to give her the note, So I go to my starter list and boom, it's right there. Because by the plan, I wrote stuff down. I was ready to go.
How would you describe your marriage right now? If you had to just describe it in a sentence or two.
I mean, with my wife, I mean, we say we are a red string couple, which means we're connected by a red string through time, this life and the next. But I mean, we have an awesome marriage, Trevor. I mean,
Yeah.
you know that. I mean, we've been
Mm-hmm.
together for years. It's hard for me to even imagine a better marriage, with each other. I mean, she
Yeah.
literally is my best friend,
Yeah.
right?
You
And
guys, let me ask you this. Did you create that on accident? Did that just magic? Are you just lucky that you have that?
yeah, I would say definitely not. I mean, yes, I'm lucky we met each other or God put us in each other's paths, right? But we've clearly both worked on doing things. I mean,
Yeah.
even when we first got married, it was like, hey, babe, these are like 5 rules I think we got to have, right? And I don't even remember all of them, but like one of them was, we don't do separate accounts, right? We don't do my money and her money. We
Mm,
had our money. That was a huge issue
yeah.
for me. No hidden credit card and debts was a huge issue. Um, don't take each other for granted, which you've got to be in a pretty good relationship to be able to look at your spouse and say, hey, feeling like I'm taken for granted a little bit here.
Yeah.
And I mean, so we had some rules back then, and I think we've definitely built towards the life we want, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and that requires certain factors of intimacy, but also certain factors of time. My wife gets pissed if we go to dinner and I take a business call, right? That doesn't work
Yeah.
well for her. She gets mad. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, but I
Imagine
also,
that.
yeah, imagine that. Imagine she gets all dressed up and then we go to dinner and I take a call from somebody else that says they're more important than her, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, but yeah, I mean, we've definitely worked. We knew what we wanted. I've played the game for years where I've set out what I wanted and wanted to keep raising the bar higher and higher and higher to
Yeah.
get where we want. And it certainly didn't happen by accident. I mean, it
No.
was a plan, and I executed it, and we built on the foundation, year after year after year.
Yeah. You built it, bro.
Yeah,
Like you built this. You and her. Like it wasn't just you, obviously. Like you
right.
guys both as you united said, "Hey, we're going to build this thing
Yeah,
together." And not only did you build that, but you also built a law firm that is in the multiple millions,
yep,
right? And the marriage is still continuing to grow. The business is still continuing to grow, not just with your wife, but with your two boys, and just all the dynamic that you have with them, the way they look at you. It's beautiful. You're shredded, right?
yep,
You're walking around. You got to walk around six pack. At any age is impressive,
yeah.
but once you're over about the age of 35 to
It gets a
40,
lot harder. Yeah,
now all of a sudden it's like that says a whole lot about you. And then the walk through your own connection to your own voice, right? The
yeah.
work you do on your own spirituality and just connection to your purpose. And I mean, all of this that you have built in your life, bro, has been crafted. It was built.
It was.
It didn't just happen. And I want everyone to understand that this wasn't magic.
No, because
Yeah,
back in the day, I thought it was all business, right? I thought that's all you
yeah.
wanted to do. Because honestly, most people didn't talk about how to build a marriage. If you
Mm-hmm.
look at all this stuff, there's a ton of stuff focused on people who are in crappy situations, but it's usually about just therapy and talking. And I don't know. It didn't seem like they give out plans. It seems like it's just like, okay, you're in this terrible spot. Let's talk our way out. When honestly, a lot of times, if you start going on a date every week and leave your phone at home and not take each other for granted, that would help a lot of issues.
Oh, dude, huge. Well, there's something we do in the legal edge is stacking, which is
Yeah.
basically processing thought. And one of the most powerful things we've had our clients do inside this game was do a 30-day
Yep.
gratitude
Exactly.
to their spouse. And every day they had to choose something different. They couldn't repeat it. And for 30 days, they had to spend time thinking through, what am I grateful for my spouse, and why? And what am I telling myself? And there's a whole process of things you go through. It takes 10 or 15 minutes in the morning. By the end of that 30-day window, I have literally watched marriages transform
Oh, I
because it's
100% agree.
action. And it worked for me. This is where it came. This is why I did it, because I started doing it on my wife, because I was getting so annoyed with certain things. And I realized this wasn't what I wanted, so the whole point in bringing that up again is, and why I even asked you the question I asked you, like, it takes work, but not crazy work. It takes a plan, and then it takes you executing on the plan across the board. Yeah. Like, anybody listening right now that doesn't realize that you can have it all. Like, you can have everything you've ever wanted in every area of your life. You do not have to pick or choose, but it requires a level of dedication and work and understanding a system that will work that way. Like, and if you don't have that, you stand almost no chance. My first marriage was the opposite. No plan, no anything. And it was just focus on money, make money, and lose my life in the process.
And the only other thing I'll say along that line, Trevor, is I think it's important to surround yourself with people who are either chasing that dream or who've already hit it, right?
Yeah.
And obviously you may hit it and then you may plateau, and then I found you're going to increase it, right? I mean, this happens with fitness, it happens with everything. You keep upping your standards, but if you're not with people who show you it's possible, then you don't believe it's possible, right? Because the idea of being, having a six-pack at 49 years old, having a marriage that's on fire, having kids who are in college who call and talk to you, having a connection with God, having a business that makes millions of dollars. I mean, that actually sounds a little crazy. And then to say the business can make you millions of dollars and you can still go on vacation sounds even crazier.
Yeah.
But it's possible. I know tons of people. I mean, I do it, and I know other people who are doing it. And it's I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's actually most of it's just working the system day in, day out, quarter after quarter after quarter, building on that foundation you lay, and you get there.
Yep. And it takes time, but it's not complex.
Right.
It's a simple system, not easy, but very simple to execute. So I just wanted to make sure we took all the frou-frou out of it, meaning the magic, or well, you just happen to get lucky because you met the right person, or this or that, or, oh, well, you just happen to have your firm only grew like it did because of, to fill in any victim blank we want to fill in there. And none of that's true. It came down with deciding where you wanted to go, and then creating an operating system on that, and then doing it. And Correct. Then even if you don't want to do it, even if just like I was saying beginning of today's show, where, my wife's being a little batshit crazy, and I'm like, I don't really want to get her flowers, but that's the time I knew I needed to get her even more.
Right. That's when when you really need to get it. That's when you really need to leave the note for your wife, is when you don't want to.
100%.
Post-it note for your kids, or whatever.
Yeah.
So
all that stuff. So, well, that kind of brings us to a close of today's conversation. I want each one of you guys to think about this as you look at your world, right? Our whole intent behind this podcast is just to add value. Shane and I built some pretty cool shit, and we're just trying to share with you guys what we built and how we did it, so that you can go do the same thing. So I want you to take a look at your world. I want you to take a look at your world right now in those two domains: inside of your business, inside of your law firm, and then inside of your balance, i.e. your relationships with your spouse and your children. Like, what, just do a self-assessment. Like, look at both of those. Where's your focus, right? And are you kind of compartmentalizing? Are you looking at one and then disregarding the other, or vice versa? Whether it's the firm or whether it's at home, right? However that's looking, but most likely it'd probably be that you're disregarding at home. That's what my experience has been, that that's where you'll end up disregarding. So your focus is probably out. So what's the one adjustment that you can make? Like, what's one simple thing that you can do today inside of the balance domain to show the people that are the most important to you that you actually do care about them, and that the 10, 12 hours a day that you may be spending at the firm, they are actually in representation of those people, that those people don't get forgotten: your spouse, your children, the people that you actually give a shit about. Right. And what can you do? Like, maybe it's a Post-it note, maybe it's a note card, and maybe it's flowers. Who knows? Who knows what it would be? And I can tell you this: if you haven't been doing anything like this, it doesn't matter what you do. Do anything. Do some simple little thing that's outside of the ordinary, what you normally do. Your spouse is going to be like in shock and awe, and be like, what the hell just happened? Right? And depending on it, just keep going. But like, make that decision to take that action. And the pray is that you get to a point where you can describe your marriage the same way Shane just described his.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we're all searching for, right? To have your ride or die, to have the woman that literally completes you
Yeah.
in a powerful way and allows you to go build your life and then build the kingdom together. I mean, it's the most amazing place you could possibly be. So, final thoughts, Shane?
No, I mean, I think we've covered it. The thing I'm going to say is just don't stop. Whatever you pick, just keep riding it out. And it may take 30, 45, 60, 90 days. I mean, if you've been a douchebag for years, it's not going to flip on a dime. I mean, that's the other mistake we see guys
Yeah.
make all the time is they've been terrible for a decade and they want to say, well, I've changed. And then they're good for 30 days. And they're like, well, why is my
Mhm.
life not 100% on fire? Well, the same reason you can't build your law firm and be at 1 million and 30 days later be at 10. I mean, it's just not going to work.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and if you've been an asshole to your kids for years, it's going to take a little while to repair that. So
Yep.
just
But it
start
is
it and keep going.
repairable.
It is. And
It
start it,
is.
keep going. It's
Yep.
100% repairable. And I mean, if you're resenting your spouse or your kids, that 30-day gratitude stack challenge is an awesome tool. No doubt
Yeah.
about it.
So to learn more about that stack and some of the other things we do inside the Legal Edge, head over to legaledgecoaching.com. We've got a free training on there that you can watch that really starts to break this down a little bit deeper, and it'll give you more information about what it is we do and how we might be able to help you. So if you're a law firm owner looking to grow your firm, that's what we specialize in basically following the same map at Shane Smith Law to build into a multiple $1 million law firm. So it's possible for you too. So head over there if that's who you are and that's what you're looking to accomplish. Other than that, if you got value from today's show, go ahead and share it up. Share it up to somebody else who might also be in the same window that you're hearing us talk about today on this balancing that relationship and the business. How do you do it, and what are some tips and techniques there? So and always give us a like and a subscribe. We appreciate you guys being listeners. Have a fantastic rest of your day. We're out.